Good afternoon, members, and welcome to today's Insights Innovation webinar. Today, we are privileged and very honoured to have the team from ACAST who are presenting to us. So with no further ado, I'll pass over to the team. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Beck, and thank you all for having us. So just by way of introduction, my name is Kieran Tobin. I'm the Group Business Director here at ACAST. I've been at ACAST for almost 4 years now, pretty much part of the furniture, but been working across the IMAA for a couple of years now. So I've probably met most of you. For those of you I haven't met, hello and nice to meet you. I'll pass on to Maddie.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm the account manager here in New South Wales. I started at ACAST at the beginning of the year, so still quite new. And prior to that, I was working selling outdoor over at QMS.
And I'm Ali. I'm down here in Melbourne, so the senior account manager. Similar to Maddie, I started at the beginning of the year. Probably have met some of you, and previously I also was in radio, so very familiar with the audio landscape, but quite new to the indies, which is great.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess, Ali is all kind of Victoria based, and then Maddie is New South Wales, Queensland, and the other states. So yeah, let us kick off. So in this episode, we're going to just give you a quick update on the podcast landscape. We'll then do a super quick update on ACAST and what we've been up to, any kind of new innovations and insights we have. And then very excitingly, we are going to be joined by Tony and Ryan from the Tony and Ryan podcast at 12:20. We're going to be doing a Q&A with them. We'll also throw to the floor for any questions as well. So you can put that in the chat when you can think of a question and when we throw to you guys. But we're super excited to get these guys on the call and just have a bit of fun. But first, let's jump into the podcast landscape. So what the fuck is a podcast in 2024? Before we go into that, what year do you think podcasting was invented? So a hint is all those pictures on the screen are from the same year. If you can put it in the chat, let's see who can figure out what year podcasting was invented.
Someone's got to guess. Oh, close.
Very close. Not far off. Ooh, no, not quite. Yeah. Sam Cousins, 2004. Yes, well done. So podcasting was invented in 2004. So that means it's been around for 20 years. In 2004, when it was invented, everyone was listening on their iPod mini. Some people were actually listening to podcasts by DVD. I know Ricky Gervais released his podcast first by DVD. So that's how long podcasting has been around. Serial was the first podcast that really shot the medium to fame in the late 2000s. And back then, that's when all of our advertising was baked in. So you might be wondering why there is a baker on the screen. That is why all the advertising was baked in. So when Serial was released, MailChimp was the sponsor on that podcast, and all the advertising was baked in, and you can still hear the advertising from MailChimp on Serial today. So their ROI was insane. But 20 years later, podcasting has changed massively. So we are now doing live shows. So one of the pictures you can see on the screen there is from our podcasters in the UK, Shagged, Married, Annoyed, the biggest podcast we have in the UK. And they sold out the O2 in London 2 nights in a row. And all they were doing was recording a podcast on stage. We've seen this a huge trend across America and the UK, and it's kind of hitting Australian shores as of this year. And a lot of our podcasters are doing live shows. A great opportunity for brands to have that on-ground activation and that presence there. We also have a video as well from one of our podcasters in New South Wales, Hello Sport, and they did a tour around Australia doing live podcasts, but they didn't go to the O2 or a core stadium. They were doing it in pubs around Australia, but you can just see the engaged fan base in this video here. So So as you can see, yeah, their fans love it. And if for any Hello Sport fans out there, you would understand why. But this is a huge trend we're seeing in podcasting at the moment, with their very kind of loyal, passionate communities, and doing more kind of face-to-face and in-person events. The last one I want to touch on is the bottom tile you see there, Un Minuto Restant. I probably pronounced that horribly wrong, but essentially we have a podcast, an Australian podcast called 1 Minute Remaining, where Jack Lawrence, the host, interviews inmates from US jails. And we realized that he actually had a huge following and listenership in non-English speaking countries. And one of them was kind of like South America and Spain and Spanish speaking countries. So using AI technology, we actually translated all of his podcast episodes from English to Spanish, where now non-English speaking listeners can now listen to his podcast. So we've come a very long way. But podcasting is now a mass media. So we're reaching almost half the population in Australia. As you can see, we've had pretty steady growth from 2017. And Australia is now the #1 per capita consumer of digital audio. So we've overtaken the US and the UK. And so that's just over 12 million Aussies tuning into podcasting quite regularly. And we're not just a young person's game anymore. So the growth of podcasting has grown throughout all different audiences, from Gen Zs all the way up to boomers. Gen Zs consume the most podcasts per capita, as you can see, 74% in 2023. But the most interesting thing about this slide is that boomers have seen the most growth, from 28% to 40% in 2023. So it's not just a young man's game anymore. It is hitting all audiences, from Gen Zs to boomers. So yes, it's a great medium, a mass reaching medium that you can use for all of your brands and clients.
Awesome. I will quickly touch on a bit of a ACAST update and what we've been up to. Hopefully most of you have worked with ACAST in the past, but if not, this will be good just to give you a bit of a spiel on what we have been up to in the last year or so. So we are the world's largest podcast network. We distribute our content to all other podcasting apps such as Spotify and Apple. We promote our content across our platform, and then we're able to monetize the content, which is where myself, Kiz, and Ali come in. We've got 30 million Australian and New Zealand listens and 8 million monthly uniques. So ACAST believe in an open ecosystem. Something that I've noticed since I've started is a lot of people will ask where you can listen to ACAST content. As I mentioned in the slide just before, we distribute our content to other podcasting apps such as Spotify and Apple. We actually see about 60% of our listens come from Apple and about 30% come from Spotify. A few of you are probably raising your eyebrows right now. I personally listen to my content on Spotify, but given that Apple was the OG platform where people could listen to their podcasts, we find that people have just stuck to that. All of their downloads are on Apple, so no one's wanting to move over. But essentially, ACAST just believe that people should be able to listen to our content wherever and whenever they listen to their podcast. We used to go out to market and also say we're podcast only. Now we're going out and saying we're podcast first. As Kiz mentioned, a lot has changed in terms of how people are wanting to buy podcasts and the ACAST offering itself. Obviously, audio ads and host reads is still the main buy that you guys, agencies are buying. But we're seeing a lot of social integration and live shows and live tours as well. So we're not just podcasts, there's a lot more integration that you're able to buy with us as well. We have over 125,000 podcasts on our network. So we originated in Sweden in 2014 and then launched in the Australian market in 2017. So this 125,000 does consist of both global and local content. We have a bit of a two-pronged approach when it comes to finding our content. As you can see on the left there, there's the premium publishers. So the BBC, Financial Times, The Guardian, etc. We're the exclusive partners of all the premium publishers, meaning that we're the only publisher that's able to sell advertising on these podcasts. Then on the right-hand side, you've got all of our independent creators as well. The likes of Tony and Ryan, Equity Mates, a bunch of true crime podcasts, business and finance podcasts, Better Than Yesterday with Osher Ginsberg, We Mean Well, Hello Sport. There is a bunch of massive names that we have across our network, but there's also smaller podcasts as well. This is just good to know that you don't need a huge budget to tap into podcasting. For brands with smaller budgets, you can definitely unlock some awesome podcasts as well.
All right.
And I'll take you through what's new with ACAST as well. So we have Podscribe. So if you're not familiar with Podscribe as well, it's our pixel tracking with attribution. So Podscribe is the #1 independent automated verification and attribution platform for podcast advertising. And we're using it quite often with most of our campaigns these days. It is free of charge when you run it with ACAST. So you probably do see it on your plans. It depends on the right brand as well, but where we can include it, we will, because we can really see the benefits for it. And you obviously have that dashboard that you can access, and you can also see that for yourself in real time. And as we know, podcast ads, they're 2 times more effective at driving traffic to a brand site than the likes of music streaming, and Podscribe can give us that data as well. Next slide, sorry. And then we have, they're introducing the ComScore. So ComScore we use, and that is for our audience targeting. So when we want to get a little bit more granular with our audio ads, we have over 300 audiences that we can target. So it really just allows your clients to reach their audience based on a granular consumer behavior, and ultimately drive that incremental reach. So whether it be that you're trying to target, say, B2B and small business owners, or it might be parents and families. So we have the right audience for you as well. And then Sponsorship Plus. So with Sponsorship Plus, this is audio ads that are voiced by our ACAST talent. So ultimately, it's a typical audio ad that could be placed across any of the targeting, whether it be our genre targeting or the audience targeting I was just speaking to, or even our conversational. It's a great way to drive that mass reach and get it across the network. As well, you obviously got that relevant post endorsement. This does need to be bought alongside a sponsorship campaign. So say if you had, We Been Well, who's on the screen there, you had a host read live with them, you can unlock Sponsorship Plus and have either both the talent or one of them in the audio ad, and then that'll go out of show. And what we can do now, which is really exciting, is it can also be bought programmatic. So it's great for, I suppose, a lot of indie agencies as well that I've been speaking with are predominantly programmatic. So this is a great way to also leverage our talent outside of just like big integrated campaigns.
Amazing. And I've now just seen that Tony and Ryan have just entered the chat. Hello, Tony and Ryan.
Hi.
Howdy.
Oh, a bit awkward that we jumped on while We Mean Well were on the screen. That's okay.
Yeah, fine.
We're all friends here. It's
Did you do
okay.
that on purpose?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining. So everyone, like we said before, Tony and Ryan have joined. If you don't know Tony and Ryan, jump on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening to podcasts, and listen to their podcast. It is absolutely hilarious. They are icons. So they have released 5 episodes a week. They have around 1 million monthly AU listens. They have over 3.5 million followers across all of their socials. Their content is hilarious. It's conversational. It's relatable. So yes, please give Tony and Ryan a warm welcome.
Woo.
All right.
I'm humbled.
We got a Q&A time. So let's just kick off from the beginning, Tony and Ryan. Give us a bit of a rundown of how you guys met and how you kind of came to start your podcast.
So Tony and I both worked at KISS in Melbourne, the radio station. And Tony was an audio producer, but in a building full of supposed comedians was easily the funniest person in the building, and they wouldn't give her a show. So we actually recorded a few things that was going to be like a demo. And then I thought it was funny. So I was like, well, let's just post it on TikTok anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then people started saying, where's the podcast? And we didn't have one. We were just in the studio mucking around. So I think after 5 or 10 people said, where's the podcast? Where's the podcast? We went, should we
do that?
Should we do that? Yeah. And so we kind
Best
of
decision we ever made.
best decision. We always kind of wanted a show, and then they wouldn't give us one, so we just made our own, and here we are, 3 years and 2 months later.
3 years later, and you guys celebrated your 3rd birthday over in London. Tell us about that trip, because it looked very fun.
It was amazing. So we went and we did like a Where in the World is Tony and Ryan kind of mechanic. And for a whole week, we gave random clues to our listeners and said, like, okay, tapas, see if you can find us. And we gave really vague clues about like where in the world we could be. And like 1,000 people ended up finding us. Yeah,
it wasn't until the maybe 24 hours notice where it was getting kind of obvious. Or not obvious, but easier where it was. And then, there was a 7-hour line, which is very, you're very grateful, but then you're also very aware that you then have to stand there all day
that time,
and say hello to a lot of people.
A great problem to have. Yeah.
But that was in London a few weeks ago, so that was awesome.
A 7-hour line, that is crazy, and over 1,000 guests. Yeah, we saw the videos from a lot of the ACAST UK employees, and it looked very fun. Lots of drinks, but lots of laughs, I bet.
Yes. Yeah, it was amazing. And I think just the fact that people were that interested and engaged to find us just using clues. We weren't like, oh, meet us here and we'll buy you a drink. They had to work for it.
Yeah. Although speaking of buying you a drink, the ACAST staff in London definitely made a good dint in the Tony and Ryan tab.
And as they should.
Yeah.
I bet they did. Yeah, we've partied with the ACAST UK team a couple of times, and yes, I can definitely see that happening. That's amazing. Did you ever think starting this podcast that you would have like fans like in the UK, in the US? Because I know a lot of your listeners are based in over there.
Definitely not.
Really.
Nah. We didn't think we'd even have fans here. Like, like to be honest, when you start something like that, it's like the right way to go into it is never like, well, hopefully it does X, Y, Z. It's just kind of lots of good decisions in a row, we like to think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very flattering and super cool that people want to come and say g'day and take a photo and stuff. So it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen such a strong fan base across any of our podcasts. Like the Tapas are wild, and the amount of Facebook pages and everything that they all communicate on, they think that they're all best friends with you guys. Like it's
and they are.
We actually gate crashed some OG Tapa's wedding on Saturday night.
Oh my god, tell us about that.
We get invited to a wedding every week
all the time,
because we jokingly, with our paid subscription with Patreon, the top level as a joke was like, if you pay $1,000 a month, we'll use the money so Tony can get her marriage celebrant license, and we'll come
and marry her.
Yeah, and so we did that as a joke, and many people signed up for it. So we actually had to turn it off and give them their money back. But so we get invited a fair bit, and we never make any commitments. But we just turned up to one, and they were a lot of screams and tears, and a lot of confused uncles going, "Who the fuck are they?"
I've never seen them at Christmas before. I don't think they're part of the family.
Yeah, but that was awesome on the weekend, so that was cool.
Oh my god,
he's
that's amazing.
getting married in 2 weeks, so you can pop into his wedding too.
Yeah, I'll send you my. I'll send you the invite, the location, everything. I expect the exact same. No, that's amazing. I can't believe that. That's so great. Going back to like the podcast and how you guys started, obviously you release episodes 5 days a week. So that's a lot of content. How do you guys come up with your content for each episode or by each week?
Two things on that. With it, it's sort of, I don't know if user generated is the right word, but like we often think of some good ideas and just know, some of the Tapas will have stories about this. So we're always like posting in the Facebook group, and people are submitting their stories, and there's a confessions page on our website where people can post anonymously. So we get a lot of stories from Tapas, and it's sort of, because we're both from radio, in radio you would tell a story and then people would call in with their story. So it's sort of the same thing, but just, done a little bit differently. And then second of all is, people will often say like, oh, so much like crazy stuff happens to you guys because you've always got a story. But crazy stuff actually happens everywhere, all the time, anywhere. You just need to like
look for it.
Have that little switch on your brain kind of always turned on a little bit, and you'd be surprised how many things you'd see at the supermarket or in a cafe that you're always going, oh, I think that's kind of funny actually, or that's a bit weird, or I'd noticed that. So it's sort of weird. We never work that hard. Like I've got friends in construction who work fucking hard.
Yeah, we're not digging holes or anything.
But you also like never
always on.
But you're never not working because you just never know when the next funny thing's going to happen.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Yeah, just have. I feel like you'd always just kind of be so observant of what's going around you to just kind of see what can be funny, what can you talk about on the podcast, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Or force yourself to do it. Like if there's a show that's trending on Netflix, I don't think I'd like it, but I might just watch it to see what the deal is and see if something interesting happens. And there's always something when you put your mind to it. Yeah.
Speaking of that, what are the kind of 2 shows that you guys are watching at the moment, or a show each that you're watching at the moment across the streaming service?
Oh my God, I have to talk about Nobody Wants This. Is everyone watching that show on Netflix? Oh my gosh, that show is modern art. I haven't watched a show that's made me laugh that much, had me that engaged. Honestly, it is such a fantastic show.
My wife is leaving me for Adam Brody, so
the podcast is going to be called Tony and Adam soon. I think,
and honestly, fair.
Yeah, but yeah, that show has like got me hook, line, and sinker. It's so good.
Yeah, last week we were hooked on The Perfect Couple,
the Nicole Kidman show on Netflix.
Yeah. And what else did Bridget start watching? We've got an 18-month-old, so watching TV is like a real luxury. Sacred. Like if I don't want to waste 30 minutes on a show I don't love.
Yeah. You got to pick and choose.
But no, there's a few doing the rounds.
And I'm a big fan of trash TV, so we also have sunk Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. If nobody knows that as well, oh, what good drama! Absolutely phenomenal.
My
one's on my list is The Penguin.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Penguin's good. I've started The Penguin.
Okay, great.
Yes, I even watched Nobody Wants This. Great. So easy to watch. It really hooks you in. So some good stuff out there. Speaking of TV and what you guys are watching, if you guys had to do a reality TV show, what would be the one that you would want to go on the most?
I have to say, this is one of the toughest questions anybody's ever asked me because I love trash TV. I'm a huge fan of Geordie Shore and like that universe of like the Shore shows. I don't know that I'd be that good on them though because I'm normally in bed by like 9 p.m.
Yeah. And on this week's episode,
Tony's asleep.
Not much happened. I think like 19-year-old, 18-year-old Tony might have given it a crack.
Turn one on a little bit. So I love that
South Perth Shore.
They actually they have released an Aussie Shore now. Yeah. So you missed the boat on that, Tony. Could have jumped on that.
I know. I'm too old now.
Oh, one actually that I talked about we did a whole thing on the show about it, but we would be terrible at it, is Hunted.
Yeah.
I know that's not a full-blown reality show. It's more of a
like contestant game show. Yeah.
But I thought us together on that would probably be the end of the podcast because I'm always running late and Tony would get really fucked off with me.
I'd get angry.
Stressed and stuff.
I'd be stressed and I wouldn't like that I had to run around. I'd be so sweaty and angry, which is like the worst combination for TV.
Yeah, that is not a good combination. I feel you there. All right. Well, does anyone on the call have any questions? If you do have any questions for Tony and Ryan, can you please put them in the chat and we can ask away.
Just while those questions are coming in, we actually floated this idea to Henrik after about 67 tequilas because he reckons he'd be really good at doing alone because he's like,
I love
fishing and being out. And so we said if Henrik gets on alone, because we love alone as well, if he gets on alone, Tony and I will do a separate podcast where we recap every alone episode for the 3 or 4 weeks that it's on. So if there's any SBS people in the room, we're all in. We're in.
That is great. For those of you who don't know, Henrik is the MD of ACAST. But yeah, I think he'd talk a big game. I reckon after a couple of days, he gets scared. He'd be too isolated. But yes, I love that idea.
I know who the first guest on the Alone podcast is going to be with the hot takes.
I'll take it. Cool. Do we have a question? Yes, from Daniel, fellow Tarper here.
Love you.
Not a question, but I love you guys and I love listening to the pod.
Oh, love you, Daniel. Thanks for being our plant on this call and pretending people listen to the pod.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate that.
Can I come in?
Love listening to you guys every day.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Does that say who it's from, that last message?
No, it says anonymous.
Oh, sick.
There's no way of knowing who that's come through
Yeah,
from.
that was very subtle. Not sure who actually wrote that in, but someone actually copied that. No, that's great. Well, speaking of Alone and SBS, are there any kind of, because we're obviously on a call with all agencies and clients and we work in advertising, are there any other kind of like particular brands or categories that you guys would love to work with, or if you've worked with in the past, would love to do again?
We've had great success with streaming services and some good results. And usually with the streaming service, it's on a specific show that's coming out that month. We did, what was the one with the billboard? Paranormal Activity.
No.
Cruel Intentions.
Cruel Intentions.
Oh no, not either.
Oh,
Anyway, basically Tony watched this thing.
It was. Anyway, it was a really sexy show, and I said that it was better than porn, and we made this fake billboard, and we did that with Paramount Plus, and that went so well.
We said, here's the ad you asked for, but also we watched the show and here's us talking shit about it. You can post whichever one you like.
Because we really liked the show and the video did really well.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing with us is that we naturally, for anyone that has heard the pod or maybe not very familiar, but we actually talk about brands a lot that we genuinely use and that we really interact with. And I think that's why it fits so well into our world, because it doesn't come from out of nowhere. And we're quite proud of that. But so we talk about like a lot of food, a lot of TV.
A lot of food, TV.
Ryan is also desperate for a Suzuki Jimny. I don't know if you guys know what those cars are, but he is so desperate. And I would look like the best friend ever if Ryan got a Jimny.
Yeah.
So you won't say it for yourself, but I'll put that out into the world for you.
We put it out into the world because we had a whole break on me trying to navigate the Suzuki website.
The website
that day.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Not that the website's fantastic for anyone that might be from Suzuki on the call.
No, the service from Suzuki was too good for someone just having a sticky beak, I think was the issue.
A sticky beak, I like that term.
But yeah, food brands, TV shows, just it fits really easily, and there's like infinite amount of, like if there's a host read that's pretty straight, that's easy, but for them to us to also like go and do something or incorporate it in content, there's also a lot of options with that as well.
And for our socials as well, like we do a lot of like really fun stuff there, and we have this rule where we never go with the first idea. We try and get to the third idea. And by that point, it's normally pretty different. And it's something that we're just really proud of. And like, we love making content rather than just like a straight ad. And that's, I think, where we kind of like come in a bit differently as well.
Yep.
Someone's got Daniel, the Tarpa has a Jimny. Did you buy a Tarpa? Did you buy a Jimny, Daniel, because you're a Tarpa? You heard us talking about it.
Yes, you did.
Because that would fare really well on this call for us.
Yeah. You're welcome. All the best. Shout out to Suzuki and
Shout
Preston.
out to Suzuki. Big fans.
Daniel, you were number one on this call. You're a Tarper, Suzuki Jimny. What else do you have back there? All right,
media, I got the whole shebang.
Yeah. Trifecta. No, that's great. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I do have one last one to round us out for this session. So for any kind of aspiring podcasters out there, if you had one piece of advice for someone starting a podcast, what would it be?
To just start.
Yeah, it sounds really lame, but just actually
do
doing
it and
then,
keep doing it.
Yeah. People all the time like ask us what the secret is or
what microphones do you use? You've got such a successful podcast. What microphones do you use? What cameras do you use?
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with it. Like the barrier to entry for podcasting is so low. So like doing it because you enjoy it and actually just like get up. Like Ryan and I both worked full time Monday to Friday. And then on a Friday night, we would do all of our prep on the phone and we'd talk to each other about what we were going to talk about the next day, record all day Saturday. I would edit all day Sunday, and then we'd go back to work on Monday.
Yeah.
Like it's not very cool at the beginning. It's hard, like it's fucking hard. But if you just actually do it and put the time into it, you could have all this.
Yes.
You could maybe be getting a Jimny.
Yeah.
That could be
good. Hard on the Jimny. I don't hate that.
No, that's great. So persistence is key. Stick with it. All right, if there's no more questions, Tony and Ryan, thank you so much for jumping on this call. We really, really appreciate it. I know everyone else on the call super enjoyed that. If there is anyone that looks after the agency with Suzuki, get in touch. But other than that, thank you all very much. And yeah, thank you for joining us, Tony and Ryan.
Thank
you're
you,
welcome.
guys.
Thanks,
Have a
Dean.
great day. Bye.
See you at the wedding.
See you later.
Bye.
All right. Well, yes, now that Tony and Ryan have jumped off, thank you guys for having us. We'll send around the deck. Yeah, everyone have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Kieran. And thank you to the guys just then. That was great. Really, really funny, and really appreciate you giving up your time today. Have a great day, guys, and speak to you all soon.
See you
Thanks so
later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.